I have beaten every From Software boss since 2016. Millennia, the demon of hatred, that stupid horse guy in the snow, all of them, most of them more than once. By every rule of gamer credibility, I've earned my hard games badge. So explain this to me. When I look at my most played list, the games I actually return to, year after year, the top of it is a farming game, where the biggest threat is forgetting to water your parsnips. If hard equals good, my own library is calling me a liar, and I don't think it's just me. I think somewhere in the last decade, gaming quietly adopted a belief that difficulty and quality are the same thing. And I think that belief is wrong in a really specific, really interesting way. So today, I want to put the idea on trial. When does hard actually make a game better? And when is it just pain wearing a medal? By the end, I'll give you a one-question test you can run on any game to tell the difference. First, where did the lie even come from? Rewind to the early 2010s. Gaming was drowning in hand-holding, waypoint arrows, unskippable tutorials, regenerating health, quick-time events. Games had gotten so afraid of losing you that they stopped asking anything of you. And then, Dark Souls showed up, asked for everything, and became a legend. Here's the thing though, Dark Souls didn't succeed because it was hard. It succeeded because it was coherent. A world that took you seriously, combat where every mistake had a cause you could name, and a community built around shared struggle. Difficulty was the delivery mechanism, not the product. But hard was the easy part to copy. And so the Dark Souls became gaming's favorite marketing phrase. Beating hard games became a personality. There's a reason, and once difficulty became status, admitting that you enjoyed something easy started to feel like a confession. That's the lie taking hold. Not hard games are good, plenty are, but the sneaky inversion of it, easy means lesser. To see why that inversion is wrong, we need to look at what difficulty actually does when it works. And for that, there's no better teacher than a game about a shinobi with one arm. Sekiro might be the best argument for difficulty ever shipped. Here's why. Most action games let you play them in your old style. You bring the habits you learned elsewhere, mash dodge, and win anyway. Sekiro refuses. The game is built around one central skill, deflection, and until you learn it, the game is a wall. You cannot dodge, spam your way through. You cannot out-level it. The game demands that you meet it on its terms, and that demand is the point. Because when the wall finally breaks, something incredible happens. The game transforms. Fights that felt impossible become rhythm. The boss that took you 40 attempts becomes a dance you know by heart. You didn't get stronger. There's barely a level system. You got better, and the game just held up a mirror. That's what earned difficulty does. It forces engagement with systems you'd otherwise ignore, and then pays that engagement back with transformation. Celeste does the same thing with jumps instead of swords. Cuphead does it with pattern reading. In all three, the difficulty is load-bearing. Remove it, and the whole experience collapses, because the difficulty is the content. Hold that phrase, load-bearing difficulty. We're going to need it in a minute, because the industry saw games like these print money and glory, and it started copying the pain without copying the purpose. And that's where things get ugly. Here's the Coggle cult version. A studio sees Elden Ring sell 30 million copies and concludes, players want to suffer. So they take their existing game and crank the numbers. Enemies get triple health, not smarter, just spongier. Bosses one-shot you. Not because the attack is readable and fair, but because the damage spreadsheet says so. Checkpoints get spaced further apart, so every death costs you a boring 5-minute walk. The hard mode is the same game, but slower and more annoying. Sound familiar? It should. It's half the challenging games of the last decade. And here's the test. Remove it, and the game underneath is unchanged, just faster. Nothing about a damage sponge teaches you anything after the first minute. Nothing about a long walk back to a boss makes the boss fight better. It just punishes you for practicing. This is the difference. The hard equals good crowd refuses to see. Challenge that comes from depth versus challenge that comes from hostility. Sekiro is hard, like a good teacher is hard. A damaged sponge is hard, like a broken vending machine is hard. It resists you, sure, but there's nothing on the other side of the resistance. And if you need final proof that difficulty and quality are separate dials, we need to talk about the games that set difficulty to 0 and became all-time greats anyway. Stardew Valley has no fail state worth mentioning. You cannot lose. The worst thing that happens is you pass out at 2 a.m. and wake up with slightly less gold. It has sold over 40 million copies, sits at overwhelmingly positive, and is quite possibly the most beloved game of its generation. Outer Wilds has no combat, no skill checks, no boss. The only thing standing between you and the ending is understanding. It routinely tops best games of all time lists, with over 100,000 reviews at 97% positive. If difficulty were a load-bearing pot of quality, every one of these games should be mediocre. Stardew demands your care, your routine, your attention to a little world that only grows if you show up for it. Disco Elysium demands that you read and think and sit with being a disaster of a human being. Every great game makes a demand and pays it back. Difficulty is just one currency the demand can be paid in, and this whole time we've been mistaking the currency for the price, which brings me back to my farming problem from the beginning. So, the paradox from the intro. FromSoft veteran, most played game is about parsnips. Here's the resolution, and it's embarrassingly simple. I never loved those games because they were hard. I loved them because they demanded something real from me and gave me back a version of myself that was slightly better at meeting demands. Sekiro demanded precision. Stardew demands consistency, showing up, tending things, caring for something small every single day, which, if I'm honest, is the harder skill. And that's the one question test I promised you. Next time you're playing anything, if the answer is nothing, it just wastes my attention politely. It demands my curiosity and pays me in wonders. That's Outer Wilds. The dial marked difficulty was never the quality dial. It's just the loudest one, the easiest to point at, the simplest to put in a marketing tagline in a forum flame war. Difficulty can make a great game unforgettable, but it has never once made a bad game good. So here's my question for the comments. And be honest, because the whole point of this video is that there's no shame in the answer. What's the easiest game you've ever loved? Drop it below. And thank you, genuinely, for watching all the way to the end.